All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about building a vision for your life. And look, this isn't some vague, feel-good concept. We're talking about a real, practical framework for how you navigate the world and actually find some meaning in it.
So let me start by asking you a question, a really direct one. Do you think you have a choice about whether or not you have a vision for your life? You might think you do, but the answer, well, it's probably not what you expect.
Here's the thing. You don't actually get a choice. You can either consciously develop a good vision, a well-thought-out one, or you can end up with a bad one, an immature one that's just driven by whatever you want in the moment. There's no vision option. You're going to be guided by something, so you might as well make sure it's something good.
Okay, so to build that vision, we first have to understand the world we're living in, the landscape of our own experience. And to do that, we can look to a really old, and I mean really powerful idea.
A really helpful way to see this comes from a Taoist point of view. It sees the world of our experience, not the physical world of atoms, but the world you and I actually live in every day, as being made of two basic things: order and chaos. So what does that actually mean? Well, think of order as explored territory. It's everything you understand. It's where you know the rules, where your actions get you the results you expect. It feels like security, right? Chaos, on the other hand, that's the great unknown. It's the unexplored territory. It's what you don't understand. And in that unknown, there's both danger and amazing potential. It's where the unexpected happens. Now here is where it gets really, really interesting. It's not about just hiding out in order or getting totally lost in chaos. The magic, the real good stuff, happens somewhere else entirely.
This is the key. The most profound sense of meaning you can have is found right there on the border, on the edge between order and chaos. It's where you have one foot planted in what you know, in security, and the other foot stepping into the unknown, into transformation. That's the sweet spot. That's where you learn the fastest.
Here's a great way to think about it. Music. A good song has a predictable structure, right? A rhythm, a melody you can follow. That's order. But if it was only that, it would be boring. A great song also has novelty, little surprises, unexpected turns. That's chaos. And that feeling of meaning you get when you listen, that's the perfect balance between the two.
And this isn't just a nice little metaphor. It points to something deep. A life that's really lived well has that same musical quality. It has that meaningful balance between the safety of what you know and the exciting potential of what you don't.
You know, we even have a word for being in this state. It's called play. Seriously, think about it. When you're playing a game, you're using skills you've already mastered. That's your security. But you're pushing yourself right to the edge of your ability so you can get better. You're stable, but you're also transforming. That's play.
Okay, so that's the big idea. It sounds great, right? But how do we actually use this? How do we take this framework and apply it to our own messy lives, to our own personal chaos? The first thing you absolutely have to get your head around is this. Your life is made up of the things you do over and over and over again. We love to focus on the big moments, the vacations, the promotions. But the truth is, the vast majority of your life is your daily routine. And that's where the real work is.
Just to show you how powerful this is, look at this number. Let's say you have just 3 intimate interactions a week with your partner. Over 50 years, that adds up to 7,500 interactions. A small thing you repeat becomes massive. Now, what if you got the first 200 wrong, but you learn from it, and you got the next 7,300 right? That's the power of mastering the things you repeat.
Okay, let's talk about the chaos from your past. You know those memories that just pop into your head and make you feel anxious or ashamed? That's not random. That's your own mind telling you, hey, you fell into a hole back there, and you still haven't figured out how to avoid that kind of hole in the future. It's a call to become more competent.
So, how do you know if something's just bad luck or if it's a pattern you need to fix? Here's a tough but really useful rule of thumb. If something bad happens once, okay, could be anything. Twice? Maybe a coincidence. But if the same kind of negative thing happens to you 3 times, with 3 different bosses or 3 different partners, then the common denominator is you. And I know that's hard to hear, but it's also where all your power lies.
Let's use a super common example of being stuck in chaos. You hate your job, you feel trapped, and you tell yourself, well, I have to do this for my family. What you're really doing is making them the prison guards. It's a terrible trap to put yourself and them in. So, how do you get out? You face it by breaking it down into tiny pieces. First, what are you actually afraid of? Maybe the thought of updating your resume after 10 years is just overwhelming. Okay, the task is too big, so shrink it.
Make the goal so small that it's almost funny. So small you can't possibly say no. Your goal for today isn't to write a new resume. It's just to find the old file on your computer. That's it. Next, you have to allow yourself to be a fool. Your first attempt will be bad. That's okay. It's way better than not trying. And finally, when you take that tiny step, give yourself a little credit. Reward yourself for it. Don't immediately push for more.
And this all ties into a really profound idea from Carl Jung. To become the savior, to become the person who can save yourself from your situation, you first have to be willing to be the fool. You have to be willing to start at the bottom, to be clumsy, to not know what you're doing.
So, where does all of this lead? What's the point of confronting all this chaos and mastering your routines? Well, it leads to a state where you're not just getting through your day, you're actually transforming it into something incredible.
The ultimate goal here is to get so good at the things you do every day that you can elevate them to the point of play. Think about putting your kids to bed. It can be this terrible nightly chore, a battle, or if you get really good at it, it can become this beautiful, playful ritual. When you've mastered something, you can be creative and joyful with it. And the payoff for taking these small, consistent steps is absolutely huge. It's like compound interest. Success builds on itself. Starting slow doesn't mean you'll finish slow. In fact, it's often the only way to build real momentum. You start turning these boring obligations into genuine opportunities. And eventually, you can find yourself in a place where you actually look forward to the things you do every day. Imagine that. What a bargain that would be. So let's forget about the big, grand 5-year plans for just a second. I want to leave you with a much more powerful question. What is one tiny, maybe even embarrassingly small step that you could take today to face a little bit of your chaos and start mastering your life?